Welcome to Chatt It Up Sports. It's a wonderful, wonderful day. It is the 30th birthday of Prosecco Poppy himself, Malcolm Harris. Three claps one time.
Love it. I love it. Prosecco Poppy
Prosecco Poppy
is in the building.
I'm proud of you, buddy, for making it 30 years old.
Me too, and I appreciate that. It's been love, man. It's been a great day, great weekend. I was at a convention, in Fulton County. A lot of great networking. It was just great.
Nice.
Yeah.
You made it, bud. You made it.
Survived it. What a great time just with friends. And yeah, man, 30 years, I could get into it all day, but I appreciate y'all boys.
We got you, buddy.
You
got
know?
you,
brother.
Are you ready to, you going to do this now?
No. I'm going to save it because I'm feeling business like.
Okay. Yeah, we should be all business because we got our boy, virtual, live and live in color from Wilmington, North Carolina.
Boom.
We have Greg Larner in the house, but also we have a very special guest. He is LockedOnVols finest of On3, and he has one hell of a beard. Eric Cain, 3 claps one time, baby. Welcome in, my friend.
What's up, boys?
LockedOnVols voice. How are you, sir?
I am good. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, man. We appreciate it, dude. It's the month of football. We begin this month. We are how many Saturdays away, Joseph?
Like 2.
2 Saturdays.
This Saturday will be two away from week 0.
Well,
which
we're
is
counting
technically
it.
week
We're counting.
1.
We're all gonna be watching the game in Dublin.
That game, I cannot wait, dude.
Yeah,
the first snap.
We are so close. We are so close, boys and girls. We are so close. So, Cain, we want to bring you on today, buddy, because we love the Vols. Myself and Malcolm Harris,
Vol for life.
VFLs. We
Absolutely.
have Joseph, who's a Bulldog fan. So just forgive him. We all fall short of the glory. And then we also have Greg Larner, who is a new Vol fan. I'll say that. I'll say G is definitely of the new Vol fan, but he's dissipated away. His internet's not wonderful. We'll get him back. We'll get him back soon. But buddy, I wanted to ask you, first off, let's just do something basic. How has camp looked? And who is the position group you're most excited about right now?
Yeah, camp's been good. Entering week 2 officially, I guess would be tomorrow morning. Today's Tuesday, was an off day, so Wednesday. They've got 5 practices already, and they're already done with. The scrimmage number 1's coming up on Friday night. It's been good. I mean, I think it's evident. Like, one of my biggest takeaways so far is this team is just, it looks so much better just from the eye test, now than it did a year ago, now than it did 2 years ago. Almost completely different from, the first team or two that Josh Heupel had here in Tennessee. The quality of depth, again, just numbers. He's got more scholarship players on the scene this year than he ever has, but it just looks an awful lot better. And then, of course, you throw in everything else about, where they're experienced here and got a great defensive line, and then Nico, and there's certainly a lot of excitement. But the number one position group that excites me the most, it's got to be that defensive line. I mentioned it a second ago. I mean, James Pierce for sure, but I mean, they're going to play 13 guys or 14 guys. And Rodney Gardner said this a couple of years ago, that the reason he plays so many guys is because once that tank hits empty, you can't go refill it during the game. I mean, you're pretty much done. So he tries to spread the wealth out on the defensive line, and there's going to be a lot of guys that play, but Omar Norman-Lott, Bryson Eason, Amari Thomas in the interior, Elijah Simmons, and then, of course, I'm excited to see guys like Tyree West and Tyree Weathersby flanking the other side of Joshua Joseph and James Pierce, Caleb Herring. So named a lot of guys, and they're all going to play. And so that defensive line, I think, it should be one of the best ones in the SEC, and certainly one of the best ones in college football.
Yeah, I mean, we know Pierce right now is our numero uno guy. I mean, probably future first rounder. Future number 1 overall.
I was going to say top 2, but not 2, man.
That doesn't happen very often.
No, not at all.
That's right. That's what Max said.
Max Chadwick, PFF's finest. Also, I want to check in. I know Joseph has a question about somebody that might have been missing in the Georgia roster that's now in Tennessee.
Well, it was potential. We made his top 3.
Okay.
So, Eric, there's a guy that I am very interested in. And I'll ask you more about freshmen as we move further into the episode. But I want to get your take on Mike Matthews. Have you seen him? Does he look like a freshman? How's he adjusting to camp? Was he an early enrollee?
Yeah, he was.
He was.
He had a really good spring, and I mean, he
Mhm.
looks like a 5-star freshman. He just kept showing up in like those spring scrimmages. I think he scored a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and all 3 of the spring scrimmages, and then he caught one in the orange and white game. So literally, whenever they were, putting the pads on and going out there in like a game like setting, he showed up and explosive, long. He's got physicality to his game. He's been limited to begin fall camp, so he hasn't really been full go just yet. But I anticipate him being full go here in the next day or two, or probably this week at some point. But he's been exciting, and when he's healthy, I mean, he should be in the rotation, which is kind of odd to think because Tennessee likes to only play 3 receivers. But I think they're going to play more wide receivers, and again, if healthy and if he picks up right where he left off in spring, I think Mike Matthews is going to play as a freshman. He's going to be a good one.
That's good to hear. I was sad when he. Well, I mean, yeah, no, I was sad. I really wanted him in Athens. I really wanted him bad. But moving on from, since Mike is a freshman, let's go ahead and get it out there. Are there any other freshmen that are on your radar that you think are going to get significant playing time this year?
Boo Carter, I think, can start in the secondary, and of course, Boo played down in the Chattanooga area, Bradley Central as a senior, and I think he was always going to be pushing to get some playing time at that nickelback spot. That star is what Tennessee calls it, but there's an injury there to Jordan Thomas, and he's going to miss the year. So, if Boo's ready, he's going to play. I mean, like snap one, day one. He's got to prove that he can, be a starter for this football team over the next couple of weeks. But Boo Carter is going to play a lot. Excited to see what he can do. I think Peyton Lewis at running back. Cam Selden, who's kind of the second option to Dylan Sampson at running back. He's gonna, he's limited right now wearing a red jersey. He had an offseason procedure and all that, so he should be getting back here close to the beginning of the season. But there's potential that he might miss the first game or two, and that RB2 is going to be huge. And I think Peyton Lewis can be a guy that can step up, or if not a local product, into Sean Bishop. So Boo Carter, I think Peyton Lewis. Edwin Spillman at linebacker. He'll play a lot of special teams, but I'm intrigued to see how much he can contribute at linebacker as well. I think he's going to be a real good one. And I'm probably forgetting some right now, but those are the ones that jump off the top of the page for me. Mike Matthews, we just talked about. Peyton Lewis. Boo Carter, who's going to play probably more than any of those guys. And then Peyton Lewis in the backfield.
Eric, I've been watching Tennessee football since, 2006 probably, my 9th birthday. So about 20 years in the game, and I think this is the most talented Tennessee team, Tennessee-led team has had, I'd say, in the last decade. I'd say probably that 2015 team was extremely talented.
Yeah.
As I look at the lay of the land of the schedule, there's really 2 games that bother me, and they're not going to be the 2 games that you think. One is Florida, and one is Georgia. Everything else to me is a win. I mean, I know that it's early, but am I a delusional Vols fan, or am I speaking with some real substance based off of what you've seen so far?
Well, you certainly sound like a Tennessee fan thinking 12-0, 12-0, but we're getting close to the season, thinking you're going to win every single game. But, knowing Georgia is going to be a challenge, and then obviously Florida, man. I mean, what Kentucky is to Tennessee is what Tennessee is to Florida. I mean, I know that Tennessee fans don't want to hear that, but it is what it is. And even the game that you won last time you played at Neyland Stadium in 2022, Tennessee tried to give it away. It's just one of those series that's been so lopsided. So I certainly hear where you're coming from with Florida, because Tennessee's been the better team so many different times, but it finds a way to lose. And 100%. Tennessee was the better team last year, found a way to lose. Tennessee will be the significantly better team this year. TBD. We'll see what happens. So I understand having some pause about Florida. Georgia, I mean, anybody going on the road playing, in Athens is going to be tough. Obviously, Alabama. I think Tennessee, depending on how these 2 teams are, Tennessee can be favored to win that game at home, 3rd Saturday in October, but I think that's a game Tennessee can win. The other one I would point out would be Oklahoma, because I think Oklahoma game is kind of the tone setter this season. First SEC game, of course, week 4. NC State's going to be a good challenge, but I think Tennessee should win that game by double digits, in my opinion. But Oklahoma, brand new offensive line going up against an experienced, median age of 23 years old defensive line for Tennessee. I think that's going to be advantage Tennessee in a big way. But SEC opener, Heupel goes home, Jackson Arnold versus Nico Iamaleava. A whole lot of storylines there, and I think Oklahoma's going to be a pretty decent team this year. So I think that's the tone setter. You win that game, you should be winning, a lot of these quote-unquote toss-up games the rest of the way. But I understand where you're coming from with Florida and Georgia, of course. But in Florida, it's one of those things to where until Tennessee can kind of turn the tide a little bit, you always have to say, well, Tennessee should win that game, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see.
100%. Great answer.
Yeah. Well, I guess to touch on that too, like of the four of the first six, you got NC State, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Florida. Like who are we most susceptible to lose to in that group?
Florida, for reasons we just pointed out. You want to say Oklahoma because Oklahoma's the best team of that bunch, but I mean, and again, you got to go on the road. And something I didn't point out there, I mean, this will be the first true road game for Tennessee. This will be the first true road start for Nico. So there's a lot riding on this. I mean, and I think Oklahoma's going to be a good team. I think it's going to be too much with Tennessee's defensive line and front seven with a brand new offensive line, brand new quarterback. So much newness there on the offensive side of the football for Oklahoma. So the easy answer is to say Oklahoma because Oklahoma should be the best team. But again, Florida, Florida's always just going to find a way. And I think Florida's going to be a little bit better than what people are going to give them credit for. They could very well start, depending on that Miami game, a lot of winnable games there, the first 5 games of that schedule. The way they end it, that's not even counting Tennessee's game, but the way they end it is brutal. Yeah, it's brutal. So we'll see what happens. The professional answer will be Oklahoma, but the Tennessee answer, it's Florida because it just always, you stumble there.
I mean, they're gonna have a bad record. Like, I mean, not a bad record. At the best possible scenario for Florida, I really do feel like it's 8-4. And that's very nice. Like, that's just such a hard schedule.
I think that's a slam dunk Super Bowl winning season this year for Florida would be 8-4.
They're a playoff
I think
team.
Realistically 6-6, 7-5 would be really good.
7-5 would be a massive win. And that's what sucks for them is like their fan base is probably a little as crazy as ours is. I love our fan base, but we are delusional and crazy and I love it. That's why we have them. But I just thinking about the Florida team, like they're just so talented in a lot of areas. There's big gaps, I think, in some positions, but they do have a lot of talent that they could run through. And it's just like, I don't know why. It just feels like the perfect matchup to beat us in a lot of years. You don't understand it. Like you said, we almost gave up that last one. It's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? What are we thinking? Why do we have these stumbles? But I just think that when you said the Oklahoma game, that's going to be such a massive, massive game, and I can't wait. I'm guessing that'll be the 3:30 game.
Yeah, it has to be, right?
Yeah, should be. So it's like you have all these fun storylines, but I think, as you mentioned, it's not only like the best barometer for us. I think going long term, it's probably gonna be like one of the biggest games of the year because they said it's you. I think you said it earlier today. I was listening to your pod. You were talking about you really think this is Oklahoma's like biggest regular season game in a long time.
I jumped on a podcast, Sooner Scoop, I believe it's the On3 affiliate for Oklahoma. Yeah. And they were talking like it's like one of the biggest games, in recent, not history of the program, but recent history. I mean, we're going back 6, 7, 10 years, decade, because, it's the move into the SEC. It's the very first SEC game. Tennessee's an up-and-coming team right now, obviously. Josh Heupel's coming home. I mean, there's just so many different layers to this matchup, and they made it seem like this is the biggest game in program history recently here, and I mean I can certainly see why.
Yeah, definitely so because it's gonna be so much fun. GT, his uncle's Brian Bosworth. So
really,
yeah. So I mean, unfortunately for GT, he did not get that athleticism and size. We love him. He's
not many people would.
Today,
I mean, that's kind of a unicorn there.
A little bit.
Not everybody can be the boss, except for his really handsome son. God bless that guy.
Just a smoke show.
Yeah, he showed up at the wedding, and you're like, we're not the same family.
No. Looking at recent wins on the trail, oftentimes Josh Heupel was told, hey, that's great, but it's not the SEC. It is now taking place in the SEC. Tennessee is probably, if not the hottest, one of the hottest programs right now on the recruiting trail. Why do you think that is? Just with, everything that's going on with, Tennessee as a brand, or is it something else on the football field? Like, why are so many student athletes now deciding, to pick up that Tennessee hat where in recent memory, we always would lose to like a black and red or, a crimson or something like that.
Well, I think, winning helps everything. And the more Tennessee wins, the better that's going to help. And a lot of these recruiting wins that are happening now, are kind of coming off that 2022 season. Everybody was just saying, oh, well, you beat Alabama. Where's the recruits? You beat, you won the Orange Bowl. Oh, where's all these commitments? Well, you got Nico. Well, why doesn't everybody want to play Tennessee right now? It's like, well, just let it play out. Let it play out. Like, a lot of these guys in this class have already made up their minds, or they're deep in relationships with other schools or whatever. Let's see what this has a year or two, a cycle or two down the line. And, I mean, now you're seeing it, right? I mean, I think a lot of this is coming off that 2022 season. So winning is fun. Winning helps you. Tennessee's collective, has its stuff in order. It has from day one. Spire's done a great job with the volunteer club. The volunteer club is for real. A lot of programs, a lot of big time schools have collectives that can't say that. Tennessee does. But at the end of the day, I truly do believe it's about relationships. I mean, this staff has done a great job of spotting talent, evaluating that talent, and beginning the relationships early. Unofficial visits, camps, all that type of stuff, getting them back up for junior days. They've just started early, and they've just continued to maintain those relationships. I think Joey Halsley's done such a great job with the quarterbacks, he and Josh Heupel. I think Kelsey Pope's done a great job with wide receivers. I think Glenn Ellerby's having a really, really good cycle. And I like the guys he brought in last year's cycle, too. I think he's gotten better and better. Alec Ablin, nobody thought he could recruit. Now look at this offensive line room, a couple years out. It's loaded. So I think it's a combination of all those things. Winning, I mean, name, image, and likeness is certainly a factor in recruiting nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee's got it in order with the volunteer club. And just old-fashioned relationships, winning out that way. I think Tennessee's doing a really, really good job in all those areas right now.
Do you know what I think I was listening to Pickle talk about this. What's the difference between Tennessee's NIL package? Like, why he just was kind of talking about how they are just kind of far more in advance. I don't know if that just might be as simple as organization, but I don't know if you know anything behind that. Like, why are they so much better in a lot of these categories than other schools?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the nitty gritty. I don't know exactly, the language and all that, but I do know they got good people, working for them. And, James Clausen does a fantastic job, and Brandon Spurlock, and, go on down the list. They've got really, really good, smart people that are involved in what they're doing. And they do a great job of kind of building out their network. I mean, the volunteer club, I'm sure it is now, but I mean, it's over 3,000 members. I think they have a member in every state in the country. They do a great job of hosting events at games and away games. I mean, they were all over Omaha when we were there for the Baseball World Series. They were at every single away football game, a lot of the basketball games. They do a great job of networking and finding ways to get more and more people involved in the volunteer club. And that just goes back to leadership. I just think that it's led by really, really good people and really, really smart people.
I was kind of wondering how that was going down, because it just seems pretty evident. Like it's cut and dry. There's smart people behind it, and it just seems very scary to other schools. You can tell they're worried.
Yeah. And like the guys that created, I mean, they used to work in sports agent. I mean, they used to be agents, right? And so like you had the business side of it already. And then whenever collectives became a thing, you start incorporating the fans and all that type of stuff. I mean, they just, again, I don't know the nitty gritty, but they do. And there's a lot of programs that aren't built on that type of basis, but Tennessee is.
Dang, it's good to hear.
There's a question I was curious about when you guys brought up the schedule earlier. What do you think counts as success this year for Tennessee, Eric? Building off of what they did last year, and they finished the season with a strong win over Iowa. Nico looks incredible, so of course expectations are high. What's a realistic expectation for Vols fans this year?
It's a good question. I think the expectation should be
12
college football playoff. 12-team college football playoff. There's going to be more opportunities. Remember, there are some tie-ins there. There are some automatic bids. So just because you're ranked 12, 13, 14 doesn't mean you're right there, right? But I do think that there's an opportunity, because I think the SEC is going to get 4 teams in. Can you be the top 4 teams in the SEC? I think Texas and Georgia are going to be 2 of those. Alabama's got a case. Ole Miss has got a case. Missouri's got a case. I am not in on LSU. I don't know if you guys listen to my show. You lost so much talent. You got good offensive line. That's good. but you've lost so much talent. I'm not in on LSU. I get why people are high on Missouri, but Tennessee and Oklahoma are right there. SEC can't get 8 teams in. I get that, but there's kind of 8 teams in this conversation right now. So I think the expectation should be you shoot for the college football playoff. Absolutely. If you fall short of that, winning 10 games, it's a good year. If you fall short of that, winning 9 games, my question is, what was that third loss? Because you go up and down the schedule, you're probably losing a game that you were favored to win. So what happened in that game? Is it the Florida situation? Mm-hmm. Was it a tough road loss like Oklahoma? That could be kind of understandable. I think anything less than 9 wins would be a little disappointing for sure. But I'm expecting 9, 10 wins and Tennessee to be right on the brink of the college football playoff. If you miss out on the playoff, doesn't mean it's a failed season, but I mean you should be right there in my opinion.
I agree. I think that's a good reasonable expectation because I'm not intimately familiar enough with the roster to know if you should just go 12-0. Obviously, every fan base is like 12-0. Let's win the SEC. But you take a good look up and down the roster. You're like, well, we got good experience here. We got good experience there. But we got some guys that and injuries happen, so you got to account for that. I think it's reasonable to expect a 10-2. 11-1, maybe lower end seed in the playoffs.
Now at 12:44 on August 31st, when we're looking down the barrel of a kickoff, we're gonna be Miggie. You're gonna be looking at each other like 12-0, baby.
12-0.
That's how it happens, dude. That's how it happens.
Somebody asked me, it might have been on my mailbag portion of the show. I can't remember, but somebody asked me, is this team better entering the season than 2022 was? Hands down, yes, by a mile. And there's a key difference here. You knew Hendon was coming back, and you knew he was a good quarterback. So I don't want to dismiss that because quarterback is everything. And we think Nico is going to be great, but we haven't seen Nico do it week after week after week. I mean, there's no reason to think that he won't be great and even, as good or maybe even better than what Hendon Hooker was. If Nico's the real deal like we think that he is and the coaching staff believes that he is, then absolutely. But there was playmakers on that roster, but Tennessee has established playmakers. Tennessee has so much depth right now in some key areas. Tennessee's done a great job in the transfer portal. And maybe other people have different opinions. I just think from a depth and roster perspective and really the experience that you bring at certain position groups entering this season, I think this team in 2024 is miles better than where 2022 was at the same time. Now, 2022 was a magical year. Hendon Hooker went off. Jalen Hyatt was awesome. Chase McGrath kicked the knuckleball that somehow went through the upright. You beat Alabama. I mean, that stuff happened, right? But I just think from a talent perspective, this team's much better right now. Now you got to go out and win games.
I think that's why I was and have been so confident in my analysis of our Tennessee Volunteers because you are right. I mean, hands down, this is the best roster that I've seen in quite some time.
And Heupel said that too, at media days, and he says it to us in the media. I mean, he's mentioned it a couple of times too. So I mean, he's not. I think he's just confident, right?
Very.
Now, you said something, and I really want to touch on this. I mean, I'm trying to temper my expectations for Nico, but I see him as, and I use this analogy, and I saw it on Twitter as well. We've had what I quantify as our Taj Boyd in Hendon Hooker.
Oh, no.
Are we now about to get into a Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence type of run with what's about to happen based off of the quarterback room that we currently have?
Those are some expectations right there.
Oh,
I mean, maybe, we'll see. Hendon Hooker was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, he was good. There was not 5 players better than him in college football that year, in my opinion. The fact that he was not a Heisman finalist is just embarrassing. The fact that Stetson Bennett is even more embarrassing. Sorry about that.
Hey, get him, Joseph.
I'll take listen. I'll take the Stetson digs because at one point the whole fan base hated him. You know what? He got 2. So
hey, I love his story. Not that he didn't deserve praise and all that. He should have been in New York for that. I mean, he didn't win it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But still,
but his story is the reason he was. His story is the reason he was there.
Yeah, exactly. His story was the reason he was there for sure, and because he played for Georgia. I get it. But we'll see. I mean, Nico is going to make mistakes. He's going to fumble the football. He's going to throw an interception, and this fan base needs to accept that now. It's going to happen. Now, I hope it's not that many, but he's not going to be perfect. Every incompletion that he throws, people are gonna be like, oh, we spent money on that. That's just kind of what, fans do. But man, he's got great vision, great arm strength, great accuracy. His leadership is improving. He controls the offense the way you want to. I mean, the coaches can't say a bad word about him right now. He is everything to this point. He is everything they thought that he was going to be and more. So it's cool to think that he's going to be awesome, because I think he's going to be awesome. But he will make some mistakes. Now, will he be better than Hendon? You hope so. But Hendon was really, really good. And then you look at Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre and Faison Brandon. Man, really good in the high school realm, really good recruiting rankings. How do they come in and translate and all that? We'll see. But Josh Heupel's recruiting quarterbacks at the high school level better than anybody right now. The only other one that came to mind was Kirby. I talked about in the show yesterday. Kirby's done a great job recruiting high school quarterbacks, obviously. Lincoln Riley's somebody I overlooked. Of course, he did a great job recruiting high school quarterbacks at one time and still is. But Josh Heupel's right up there with those guys right now, just, with who he's, brought in, developed, who he's, signed, and who he's got committed right now. It's Tennessee is, if you want to play quarterback, come to Tennessee, because you're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and one last thing for Nico. I was kind of wondering, what do you think is going to happen? I know the Iowa game's a game in itself, and it's going to be different, but do you kind of see the offense being a little bit, Nico running maybe double-digit times and only throwing it 20 or less times? Do you kind of see that more of a situation for him? Because it'll look different than I think somebody like Hooker. I think it seemed like there was a few more design runs for Nico. I don't know if you're going to see that as much, because it was different because it was Iowa that game. But
no.
How do you kind of foresee this offense working with Nico? Is it going to be more run heavy than usual?
For me, I think that the Iowa game in the Citrus Bowl was kind of a one-off.
Okay.
Because you knew that was the last game of the year. Don't hold anything back, right? But because there's not a Nico sitting behind you or an established veteran quarterback. Like say it was reversed last year. Say Nico was a starter and a guy like Joe Milton was sitting behind you. It's like, okay, you don't want Nico to get hurt, don't get me wrong, but if Nico goes down, it's like, okay, well, we're in a pretty good, decent spot. You got, Joe Milton right behind him who can come in and do some things. If Nico were to go down, you have a guy in Gaston Moore who knows the offense probably better than anybody, because he, came with Heupel from UCF. You got Jake Merklinger, who's a true freshman. Very much an inexperienced group, and there's going to be a huge drop-off there. So you don't want to have unnecessary shots to Nico, but you can't play scared, okay? So I think it'll be very much like Hendon in the respect of this. Do you remember the Florida game? Hendon ran a lot.
Yeah.
Big game, big moment. Hendon Hooker will call his own number, he'll go. Or the coaching staff will call his own number, and they'll go. I think you'll see that from Nico in the big-time games. Nico better not run at all against UT Chattanooga. Nico better not run against Kent State, UTEP. Nico better not run against Vanderbilt later. I mean, at that point, it's the end of the year. But, I think in big-time moments in games, third down, whatever, you're in the red zone, call a design quarterback run, because it worked really, really well last year in the bowl game. I think they'll be more willing to do that in those certain situations and certain games. But I don't think that they're going to call a lot of design runs, simply because they don't want him to take those unnecessary shots. But I do think he'll look more like Hendon in that respect than Joe, because Joe was just not a runner, at all.
Definitely not. Boys, got anything else?
I mean, I could talk for 2 hours, but I'm good. You've answered like 25 of my questions that I had. So,
Joseph?
I'm good, man.
All right. Well, I got one more for you. Tanner, you are a man that gets on the road a lot. Is there anywhere food-wise, as a group of big fellas here, is there anywhere food-wise you cannot wait to go this season?
Well, I've never been to Norman, so I'm really excited about going to Norman. Something tells me there's going to be some good barbecue out there, so I'm looking forward to that. Where else is Tennessee going this year? I don't care about Alabama. No, that game's home. Tuscaloosa's home. Yeah, Alabama's at home. Florida's at home.
Fayetteville? You ever been out there?
I've never been to Fayetteville. This is good, though, because I've never been to Oklahoma or to Norman. I've never been to Fayetteville. Mississippi State's at home. Yeah, there's really not that many away games this year, is there? NC State, I've been to Charlotte a ton. I will say Norman. Charlotte's got good barbecue, too. I'll say Norman to get some barbecue.
Can you please report back or post it on your Instagram and let us know what you get? If you remember this, Give us a little food rundown, little foodie show, just a little hit, because that would be great. Because we want to be on the road. I've got a baby shower that day, so I can't. So
Oh, you got a baby shower that day.
yeah, it's our like 5th baby shower.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, man.
You got to do what you got to do, but it's the fall, man. I mean, at least it's not a wedding, right?
Well, so how it's hopefully planning out here. This is a dream
Hopefully.
scenario.
You know, that plan's never going to go off to.
It's not going to go this way, but this is how I hope it happens because my daughter needs to relish in this glory. So we're due the 14th.
Okay.
So if we beat Florida, have child, beat Alabama, and then me and my daughter get to smoke a cigar together the first time when she's 3 days old.
So this is your baby shower.
This is my baby shower.
Oh, so you have no say in it whatsoever.
Oh, no, bro. We're out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's exciting. And I'm sure it'll work out just like that, man. I'll be rooting for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll come back to you whenever that happens. So you just I just need to live vicariously through you.
Yeah, I'll come on the show that Monday after Oklahoma, and we'll talk just food the entire weekend.
Oh, that sounds great. That's what the fans need.
Yeah.
They can go to your show for the real information. They come to our show for the absolute BS.
As long as we both get views, I don't care.
Bingo, baby. That's what I'm talking about. That's the man from content world. Well, buddy, we appreciate you. G just fell off the wagon. Shout out to terrible Wilmington internet. Where can they find you? What's going on in your world right now?
Yeah, just news and notes every day from Tennessee fall camp, position battles, who's looking good, who's not looking good, injury updates, all that and more. It's a Locked On Vols podcast every weekday morning, and of course, volquest.com.
We appreciate you, buddy. 3 claps one time for Mr. Eric Cain. Love you,
Thank
buddy.
you, boys.
Appreciate it.
You.